Black wrought iron surrounds the park. Vines and brush intertwine the fencing all around, giving the park a secure, peaceful feeling. There are many tall oak trees in the park to offer shade, along with some pink and white dogwoods to add color and many other trees. Many families on blankets and throws enjoy the bright day on the open green expanse. However, there are others who use the shade provided by the wondrous trees. The entrance is through two open wrought iron gates that swing onto a stone pathway, which leads by several benches, spaced several yards apart. Abigail Benny is on one of those benches. She watches the children play. Her smile activates the wrinkles on her face. She holds her clutch purse on her lap with her hands. Her cane hangs on the walker off to the side. The dirty tennis balls on the front of the walker have seen a lot of travel, and the basket holds the remnants of a fast food lunch. Abigail watches a father push his 5-year-old daughter on the swing. "Higher," the little girl urges. Her father obliges, and squeals of excitement pierce the air. Abigail takes great delight in the display. The father sees Abigail and waves to her, as she waves back. Drew is a good father. Other parents with children wave as well. They're all good, she thinks out loud. Abigail always thought a cherry blossom tree would fit nice in the park. Harold loved those trees. Her and Harold came to the park the day they found out they couldn't have children. They came every day since then. It didn't matter the weather, rain, snow, even the bitter cold, they would come and sit on this very bench, only if it was just for a little while. They liked spring and summer best. They would spend the whole day in the park. It's going on a year now since Harold passed, and still Abigail comes to this park and sits on this bench. Abigail and Harold thought about adopting, discussed it many times. There are so many children who need a good home, but times were very different back then, not as progressive as they are now. Still though, a mixed family, especially in a small town, has a harder time than most. They lived their lives, and they had their bench in the park to watch the children play. A woman in a blouse and capri pants pushes a packed stroller towards Abigail. Abigail smiles. "Oh, I like babies." The woman smiles back. After a few steps, the woman plops down at the other end of the bench. Abigail breaks the silence. "It's a beautiful day for it." "Oh, yes. I've never seen you here before. We just moved in down the street. This park is one of the reasons we bought the house. It's a wonderful place. Your little one will enjoy it when he gets older." The woman extends her hand. "Susan." Abigail takes it with a sweet smile. "Abigail." A child's playful scream turns Abigail back to the frolicking as she places her hand back on her purse. "You come here a lot?" asks Susan. "Yes, for a long time now. The trees are beautiful, so lush and vibrant. This must be a very old park. There are a lot of them, though." "Yes, we love our park. You see that man with his daughter, the one pushing the swing? That's Drew. He's the guardian. That's Drew. He's the guardian of sorts. He takes care of it. His family has been doing it for generations. We all have. This is our park, dear. We all chip in where we can." It then occurs to Abigail, how come we never asked Drew for a cherry blossom? "That's wonderful," says Susan. Susan's face scrunches up the littlest bit in thought, but only for a brief moment. "All right, dear." Abigail opens her purse. She removes a small notepad. While Abigail searches for a pen, Susan's baby, crying, stops Abigail. As Susan takes her child from the stroller, Abigail drops the notepad back into her purse for later and snaps the purse shut. Susan opens a button on her blouse and then the flap on her feeding bra and places the baby on her breast. Abigail is stunned. "Look, Daddy," yells Drew's daughter. Abigail turns her gaze out into the park. Drew stops his daughter's swing and hurries her to a blanket where the mother is on her stomach reading a book. Other parents hurry their children away. Some put their heads over their children's eyes and walk them out of sight of Susan. After a few moments, the joyful noises end. Abigail looks at Susan. "Excuse me, dear, but would you mind covering up?" "Why?" asks Susan. Her indignant tone is not lost on Abigail. "I have every right to breastfeed my child." "Of course you do, honey, but not everyone wants to see it." "Then don't look." "But there are children. Show some respect. We're not animals. I'm just asking." "Look, I don't care what you're asking. How about respecting me, what I want to do? You don't like it? Leave. Look away. Whatever. As far as I am concerned, if you or the parents can't handle their children seeing something as natural as this, then shame on all of you." The look of hurt in Abigail's old eyes had no effect on Susan. Abigail lowers her head. "I see." Abigail retrieves her cane from the walker, and after a couple tries, she is able to stand. The baby suckles Susan's breast. Susan ignores Abigail as she places her purse in the walker basket and hangs her cane on the crossbar. Abigail starts her slow journey on the stone path towards the gate. Susan's attention is on the now empty play area. She shakes her head with disappointment. Abigail is slow as she walks by Susan, who refuses to acknowledge her. Susan surveys the park. All the families are on their blankets or fold-up chairs. The parents have placed the children so their backs are to Susan, but the adults intensely watch her. Drew is several yards away, walking with a red-haired woman and a taller man who has a blanket toward the contemptuous Susan. Great. So much for progress. Small town backward humps. Abigail's soft voice off to Susan's side grabs her attention. "Oh dear." Susan sighs in exasperation as she turns towards Abigail. "What is wrong with—" The hollow point bullet from a silenced .38 revolver in Abigail's hand puts an onion-sized hole out the back of Susan's head. Drew arrives in time to ease Susan onto the bench as Abigail returns the revolver to her purse. The red-haired woman takes Susan's child, places him in the stroller, and Drew says to her, "Call the sheriff's office and speak to Wilson." She nods and heads off with the stroller to the two adults by the closed wrought iron gates. The taller man covers Susan with a blanket, and then he and Drew place her next to the fence underneath the overgrown brush. The tall man walks away. A stiff breeze rustles the leaves of the strong oaks and sways the branches. Abigail delights in the wonder of plush dogwood petals that rain down on the children, and parents once again in playful joy. Abigail closes her eyes and smiles. An expectant Drew turns from Susan under the brush. "Well, make it a cherry blossom this time." Thank you very much for listening. This was a story that was provided by Mark Johnson. I will have his links in the description as well as his Twitter page and website. Thank you very much, and I'll scare you guys later.